So there's discernment, noticing, paying attention, relaxed attention, listening. Like I can hear the rain, sound of silence. So that's like paying attention, isn't it? And discerning the sound of silence, sound of rain. It's not a judgment, not a, not the thinking mind is not a matter of thinking about it, but observing, paying attention, mindfulness. Then noticing the mental state you're in this morning, discerning it. It's like this. The Jatanupassana, isn't it? It's like this. So this, the way it is, or it's like this. It's just bringing attention, say the mood or mental state you're experiencing now. So you're just noticing what mental state has this. It's like this. So then if it's then you can make it into a problem. If you're in a excited or negative mental state, you can try to figure out why. I probably got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Or, it's sleeping in the dormitory. It always makes me grumpy in the morning. I try to figure out. But this isn't, you don't need to know why or even label it as anything. It is like this. Like training yourself to discern, to be to discern the difference between thinking, criticizing, judging. Like when we hear the sound of rain out there, we think, oh, raining again, England's always raining, oh, the weather in England, blah, 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 blah. We go into a whole English weather whine. So, that's a habit, isn't it? It's raining again, oh. But if you just discern the sound of rain, it's fairly calming. Listen to it. When I first came to England and to live in England in 1977, I've been living in sunny countries for years. So I'm actually from Seattle, in northwestern United States, and that is much like England, actually. Seattle is called the rainy city. In fact, it's more wet than England. But and so I like sun, so as soon as I could, I moved to California, and then went to live in Saba in Borneo. That's on the equator. It's getting right down to where the equatorial, where it's always warm and sunny, and then from there to Thailand, and then from Thailand to England. So then I remember that observing, discerning my reactions to. Because when we arrived in London, it was a cold springtime. It was this time of the year, and it was quite cold. And fortunately, physically, my skin type, I have skin problems, and you see, my skin is not suited for tropical weather. And they call it in dermatology, I have a Celtic complexion. This means you should be living up in England or Scotland. Because in Thailand, Malaysia, even though I liked living there, the skin didn't like it. So I had terrible kind of rashes and heat rashes and itching kind of problems with the skin. And then after so many years living, 15 years in the tropics, the skin started breaking down. So I was in London for 6 days, and all those rashes disappeared. So that's Celtic skin is, physically, I'm suited to this kind of climate. The body is, anyway. But then discerning, like in the English winters, I remember the first winter spent here at Amaravati is very cold. It had a freeze, Siberian freeze, that spread over the whole of Europe. And here it was really frozen. Everything was frozen up. And we'd be practicing meditation and out in the snow. It snowed and froze, and cars couldn't get up the hill. The hill from Great Gaddiston. Then taking into account discerning rather than complaining. So people complain a lot. It's too cold and bleak. It's bleak and cold. English winters, grey. That's a complaint. You say grey, and it means I don't like grey. It's grey and cold and bleak. And so these are the ways of complaining about this. But in discerning, different. You're noticing the effect it has on you. Like cold weather's like this, or grey skies, bleakness, no leaves on the trees is like this. And then in the discerning mode, you realize that like English winters are quite peaceful, because like springtime is always exciting, isn't it? Everything kind of comes alive and flowers bloom and you feel very different. But in the winter time, this is when we have our 3 months winter retreat. It's like this. It's peaceful because there's nothing drawing you out or exciting your senses. So you begin to appreciate through reflecting, contemplating, rather than just reacting, in some conditioned way. I don't like cold. I want permanent springtime. pretty flowers, bright green leaves, perfect weather, neither too hot nor too cold. We can idealize the perfect weather, perfect climate. But in terms of discerning, it's like this. It's not comparing it with some ideal of perfection, but is English winter really suffering? Or when we start complaining, I start suffering. I create my suffering. When I start whinging about things, don't like this, and don't like that. Why does it have to be like this? And whose fault is it? And I get it. It's a really unpleasant mental state I create through my complaining. I noticed this in Thailand. I started living with Ajahn Chah because, we complain a lot and about everything, and whinge and moan and go on and complain to each other, reinforce our complaints. And so going to Wat Pah Pong, it's too hot, complaining, don't like hot weather. They didn't have these. We train ourselves with these Vinaya rules. And so a lot of the rules seem so irrelevant to anything practical. So what's the point of this? Why do that? This isn't even practical. It's silly. Complain, complain, complain. And this, in observing, discerning this, and the result of living in the monastery, monastic style, and complaining about everything, and I actually began to discern the complaining and is like this. When I'm in this whinging mode, it feels the mood is like this. And I can see the suffering because I'm creating it. I'm the one that has this habit of complaining. I discern this. If I stop complaining, the mood goes away. Discerning the absence of that mood is peacefulness. And then the things that complain about are, nothing. There was nothing really wrong, or they weren't asking me to do something immoral or something, dangerous to life, or I was just being trained in a particular style, tradition, an ancient tradition. And then, of course, my American mind would come up and say, I don't see the point of this, I don't agree with that, this isn't practical, I know a better way to do it. And so this is what you begin to see, you're creating this suffering. Once you see it, I stopped doing it, because there was, I could see that I made myself suffer. It wasn't because of the weather, the mosquitoes, the rules of the Vinaya or anything. It was me not paying attention, but just reacting, because my mind was conditioned to, it's conditioned to complain. I think, we're all from, in affluent societies, there's an enormous amount of complaining. So, but discerning then, and I started looking at, like here in Amaravati in the wintertime, the no leaves on the trees, just the gnarled, kind of muted colors of trees. There's no bright colors. coming out. They're kind of muted colors, and then this, it is. You can see it as bleak, but also it's quite peaceful when there isn't a lot of exciting, vibrant things going on. It's calming. So I always find the winter retreats a period of great calm and naturally calm. So the discerning brought me into gave me this perspective rather than just reacting. Once you are conditioned, then you tend to react the same way till you die. And the winter, yeah, bleak, cold, no. And you don't discern anything. You just complain about it, and then you talk to the neighbor. Oh, English winter is. Well, let's go to Tenerife for the winter, where it's permanent spring. Can't stand the English winters. Grumble, and then of course, you actually believe this stuff and you act on it. But if you discern, then you see the suffering of attaching to these conditions, and that then you awaken to, you needn't create suffering. That actually, English winters are not suffering. We create suffering about them. And that's discerning, knowing, observing the difference, suffering and non-suffering. So when I stop complaining, letting go of complaining, then that unsettled feeling, that grumbling mood stops. And so, because if I keep just holding that, then I feel I get into, I suffer from that, creating this suffering. But if I stop doing it, then non-suffering, discerning the difference. From this way, you can see the path, the way of non-suffering.